Hello folks, and welcome back to Ride With Me. I'm joined today very kindly by James from JayEmm On Cars. I've come out here so that he can do a review on my car today, and he's taking me out in his lovely new BMW 7 Series. Basically the topic of this video, we just want to discuss kind of the implications of buying a big barge such as this on the cheap as a used car. Now, it's just as easy these days to go out and get something on finance or lease, something brand new. It's going to be reliable. For just a fraction of its original cost, you could have something like this, a big luxury barge like a 7 Series, Mercedes S-Class, and so on. Now this car, when new, was listed at probably around £90,000. And today, it can be picked up for almost a tenth of that, really. Really, I just want to get your take on why this car and why a luxury car?
Well, for me, it's often about getting the best value for money out of a car. So the way that the market, particularly the UK market, works, we're quite different to the rest of Europe in that regard, means that a car like this just gives you phenomenal value for money. So the reason I basically wound up with this is I've just sold another vehicle, and I needed essentially a daily. I've been driving my S500 about for a little bit, but it's a little bit too old for daily duties. So because it doesn't have things like Bluetooth, a fairly modern sat-nav, that kind of stuff, and I do want that in a car. Bluetooth at the absolute minimum.
Of course, yeah.
Now, I could have added that to that car, but the reality is I also wanted to upgrade the sound system and stuff like that. And so I could have easily spent like £2,000 on that car that I only paid like just over £2,000 for, and you're never going to get that money back.
No, of course not.
Now, so I was thinking about what do I get for a daily driver, and I really deeply miss the BMW 130i that I used to have last year. I had it for like a few months as a winter runaround, and I foolishly sold it to a friend who's still got it and absolutely loves it and is probably never ever going to let it go. And rightly so, because it's a very nice, very rare car. There was a really good combination of like small little fun hatch, but also a nice cruiser, because it's got that big 3-litre straight six in it. Now, to get a decent 130i these days, you could spend easily over £5,000.
Right.
And that's a car that in 2007 cost something like about 30 grand or so.
Right, yeah.
Now, the 1 Series is popular because it's a small car, and generally speaking, younger people and women tend to prefer smaller cars. People are also quite averse to large-engined cars, which is one of the reasons that they didn't sell many 130s in the first place.
They associate them with the high running costs and maintenance.
Even though, as we sort of discussed earlier on the video, on my review of your car, the 130i actually does fairly similar fuel economy to sort of a modern Golf. But people just don't see it that way. Now you've got insurance costs and things like that. But if you then start looking at like other cars that are available, if you say you go onto like Auto Trader or Piston Heads or even eBay or whatever, and you just put in, let's say, a 2007 car for £10,000. You know, you'll get yourself like a 130i or something like that, or you'll get like a slightly nicely spec'd like 123D or something along those lines. Or you could get a really quite nice 3 Series. And of course, the 3 Series, when it was newer, was a bigger, better car with more features. You know, it was more high-end, more luxurious, cost more, all that sort of jazz. And then if you look at how much of a 5 Series you'd get for the same money, you get even more again. Because, you know, people are, like I said, they're put off of the larger car with the higher associated running costs and so on.
Definitely.
And then the ultimate expression of that, of course, is the 7 Series. I mean, the 7 Series is notorious for losing money. I mean, this car is genuinely almost a tenth of its new price. And it probably lost about 50% in the first couple of years.
Which is an extortionate amount of money to lose when you're buying a car at this value, at this price. Really.
Exactly that. That's actually the reason that BMW bought Rolls-Royce. Because they saw that the 7 Series was losing so much money, because people just didn't want to pay that much for a BMW.
No, of course.
And I think the sort of people that buy one of these new, they're never going to want to make do with like a slightly new one. They want new or nothing. And then the other people just want a cheap one. So it's when you look at a Bentley. I mean, Bentley's. I looked at a Bentley the other day just as a bit of fun, and it was 100 grand or something like that. So like way more than I can afford.
But
it was like over 300 grand when it was new.
Yeah, well, this is it. And the fact that it's lost that much money just within a couple of years, that sort of thing. I mean, the same goes for Rolls Royces and things like that, but I suppose Rolls Royce are a more premium brand, and BMW have kind of used that to their advantage with the newer 7 Series and things like that.
Completely. It's all about branding. I mean, the engine in this is actually a very, very close relation of the one that BMW put in the Phantom.
Yeah. So just to be clear, what is the engine in this one?
So this is designated the N73.
Right.
It's a 6-litre V12.
Yeah.
Puts out 440 horsepower, about 440 pound-foot of torque. The Phantom got a 6.8 litre version of the same thing.
Yeah.
The power was actually the same, but it's designed to do better work at lower RPM. It was a torquier engine, so designed more for the Rolls-Royce kind of crowd, because the Rolls is a bigger, heavier car, and they're not really worried about it being good when you put your foot down. They just want it to waft along. This is the last of the naturally aspirated big V12s, because at this kind of time, BMW and Mercedes and all the other car companies, they started turbocharging the V8s,
which is better for economy and also can produce quite a lot of torque.
Yeah, better for economy, better for power, and also better for emissions was the kind of driving force behind it. And the problem was that, this is 450 horsepower, and the thing is nowadays, what's the A45S now, 420?
Yeah, so this is it. You're getting that from a sort of 2-litre turbo nowadays.
Yeah, so
the trouble. They
turbocharged the V8s, and then they realised, oh hell, the V12 is our flagship car, but it isn't making the power that the V8 is. Yeah. So we best turbocharge the V12 as well.
Yeah.
Personally, I wanted the naturally aspirated one because I wanted it to be, smooth, and also I have plans for putting an exhaust on this car as well.
I think the benefit of the naturally aspirated engines is they're definitely silky smooth in comparison because of the power delivery. There's no turbo lag, etc., etc. So, I mean, in terms of a car like this, like I say, you can pick it up for sort of a tenth of its original value. I mean, when you consider that my car, if you was to go out and purchase one brand new now, you're looking at sort of nearly triple the cost of this. And, I mean, I'm looking around in here, you've got climate control 4-zone, I'm looking in the back, I can see controls for recline, massage, all the rest of it, and... Yeah, you got air-conditioned seat. Yeah, cooled,
all
heated,
four
ventilated.
Air-conditioned, there's a fridge in the back.
Pan roof, everything. I mean, this is the pinnacle of luxury for its time.
Yeah, I mean, even by today's standards, it's not a bad car. You got double glazing.
Yeah, it's absolutely silent in here compared to most road vehicles, especially the roads we're driving on at the moment. Yeah. And everything is leather. Every touch point is perfect. There's nothing that I can touch that is cheap plastic, which is something we kind of have generally tried to accept now with some of the Volkswagen Audi group stuff, especially. They're kind of like cost cutting and sharing platforms and things like that. Yep. But something like this obviously represents a good value in terms of, because it was built to a high standard in the beginning. Yeah, I mean, this was actually a very rare car. So in the 7 years that this generation of car existed, in the UK, they sold less than 200 of the V12s. Wow. For the very simple reason, this was 20 grand more than the V8. Yeah, and what justifies that cost, really? So, obviously, part of it is the engine. Yeah, no doubt. Almost all of the V12s that were sold are the long wheelbase version. So you probably noticed the fact there's quite a bit of room in the back. Yeah. The regular version is, I think, about 6 inches shorter or thereabouts. So you can fit the reclining seats in the back of this one, etc. So I think the regular one does actually have the reclining rear seats, but of course you've got less space to put your legs when you're using them, which sort of, renders them a little bit pointless. Yeah. The standard spec in the V12 is very, very high. Yeah, so it's even little things, like you pointed out already, the fact there's leather everywhere in it. That was standard. Same with this suede headlining, it's everywhere. It's all standard. You got the top spec sound system, standard. There isn't actually a lot that you could specify in these. I can imagine it probably comes down to stuff like BMW individual paint and things like that. Yeah, if you want to go down the individual route, that's pretty much the main place you could actually go. Yeah, you can spec fancy leather and stuff then, can't you, as well? I mean, this is already the top grade leather that BMW did. It's very nice. Yeah. But I mean, in terms of running costs though, so obviously you've not had this particular car very long, but if we refer to your S-Class, so I mean, obviously you could have had what I've done at the moment. I've just bought a new car, a cheap runaround for £1,000 that's going to get me through the winter. It's just a 1.9 diesel. I mean, if you spend £1,000, £2,000 on an S-Class, obviously there's issues that arise and things associated, as we said, with higher running costs, but maintenance costs as well. Parts are becoming rarer, and, you know, service costs and things like that. So in terms of actually owning one, do you think it's really as scary as people make out?
I mean, they can be. So like with this has got a couple of issues. I only picked this up yesterday. It's got a couple of minor issues in it that I need to get sorted, and I'm dealing with the guy that sold it because it bought from a garage, and I'm dealing with that now. They certainly can chuck up bills, and I would always try and keep some money aside to sort of sort them out.
Definitely, yeah.
I went through the paperwork of the car, and actually, you know, it went to the garage 2 or 3 times a year, I would say, usually for stuff that you wouldn't class as very, very bad. And the average spend, I would say, would be £400 to £500.
Right. Per visit.
Yeah, per visit. Which is not horrendous. The Mercedes, I've just had a load of work done to. I mean, I had the air suspension fixed. I had a major service done. I had the picnic table in the back rear line. I had the heater motor like lubricated because it was squeaking. I had a massive, massive stack of stuff done, and it's cost me less than £1,100.
That's quite impressive when you consider. I mean, everyone freaks out about the air suspension, especially on cars like this. I've heard a lot of bad things about the S-Class, but also I know BMW operates similar systems and things like that.
Only in the back on this.
Oh right, okay.
So the front is a sort of more traditional setup.
Yeah.
And in the back is air ride.
That's interesting. It's very different to how Mercedes do things, but I suppose in a way that could contribute to slightly less issues.
That's the hope.
Yeah, that's the hope.
It's still got the whole active anti-roll and all that kind of stuff, which is freakishly expensive if it goes wrong.
Yeah.
There are parts on the car that if they fail, they can be hideous. To give you an example, with a car like this, one of the notorious failures for them is the high pressure fuel pump.
Right.
It's a pump that is specific to this engine, so it's not like you can just go and buy one from a 320i or something and, and make it work.
You have to probably end up getting it imported and that sort of thing at this
There's
rate.
2 of them in the car, and they're £2,500 each. But the thing that fails inside them is a little diaphragm.
Right.
And some very clever people have made a replacement for it. So the thing that everyone says is going to be £2,500 to fix, you can actually fix for more like £300.
Right.
Which is
so when third parties get involved and start manufacturing parts or coming up with sort of almost
there's always a
jobs,
solution. You know, a lot of the stories for these cars as well come from when they were new.
Yeah.
And when they're new, they're only ever going to be looked after by main dealer. And main dealer's not interested in pulling apart something and trying to repair it.
No, they just want to replace the whole part and get on with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They charge you labour and get on with their day.
Of course, they charge you full rate. And the thing for me with this, and with the Mercedes actually even more so, I had my Saab beforehand, and the Saab sort of started annoying me and everything. And the Saab was reasonably economical, but, you know, I had problems with that. I lost a hell of a lot of money when I sold it.
Right.
And the thing is that the Saab frustrated me. With the Mercedes, you know, I've got quite a few different cars, and I've driven loads of different cars. I mean, even let's take a car like yours. You know, it's a very good car. It's a pretty good all-rounder. But it's so rare. Like, the Cupra is actually an odd one, because the Cupra doesn't almost have like a real strong suit.
No, it's a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none. That's how I referred to it in my review.
Exactly. So whereas the let's take even something like my my Elise that I used to have.
Yeah.
The Elise is great on a really nice hot sunny day when you can take the roof off and you've got the roads to yourself. Yeah, that's when it does its thing. But the number of times you can actually enjoy it at its best are really very few.
Yeah, of course.
But you buy a car like this, you buy something like the S-Class or whatever, and actually you're always enjoying it at its best, because what it does is just be comfortable and lovely and wafty and just amazing. And so just, you know, sitting in this, like I've done, you know, in the first 2 days of owning this car, I did sorry, actually no, it's the first 2 days. Yesterday was the first. I picked this up yesterday morning. So I did 350 miles on the first day.
Yeah, I can imagine it was very stress-free.
Yeah, I mean, okay, it cost me loads and loads of money.
Well, yeah, there is that.
But to be fair, if you and I wanted to go to London from where I live, it's going to cost us the best part of probably 80 quid each. And the train station, if you want to get on a train station that doesn't, you know, that actually runs in the evening, you're going to have to drive half an hour to get to the station, and you're paying £80 each to get into London.
Yeah.
And then you better get on the right train to come home, because if you miss it, you're screwed.
Game over.
Yeah. Whereas with this, it leaves when I want it to, you know, it arrives when I want it to, it stops where I want it to.
And it still feels very first class in here.
Exactly, sure. It's travelling first class. You know, I worked out that it costs me about twice as much per mile to drive this as it does my Honda.
Right.
But then it's such a completely different car.
Definitely.
That you know, you just play to its strengths. I mean, it's just a lovely place to be, and it also does go quite fast.
And as you say, in terms of running costs, what sort of MPG are you getting average in here?
Oh, you don't want to know. More accurate.
Close to single figures.
I don't want to know. Well, it's currently saying 19.7.
Okay, it could be far worse.
To be fair, on the motorway, about 26, 27.
Okay, yeah. I suppose there's no effort, is there? It's very much very low rev range and that sort of thing.
It's barely ticking over. My Mercedes is actually fractionally better. The Mercedes is about 27 or so on the motorway.
Yeah.
Again, but when you consider that, like, you know, I've driven, say, like this Skoda that I borrowed, and I get 33 out of it. You know, 33 in the Skoda or 27 in the Mercedes. Like,
yeah, it's a small price to pay, really, when you consider the environment you're in.
Yeah, around town, they really suffer.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
they're really bad. And if you want to have fun on the road, which I do, then, you know, it's one of those things.
Car, but it's ideal if you're the sort of person who has multiple cars like yourself. Yeah. It's quite an ideal situation to be in, because you've got a comfy car for commuting and running around, but you've also got a hunkered down sports car for when you actually want to get out on the twisty stuff. And I mean, I've got to say, I mean, we've been in the Cupra today, obviously going around these same roads, and obviously the ride is a lot harsher, but I think I've enjoyed this journey just as much because of how serene it is and how effortless it is. You know, you don't feel like you're straining the car whatsoever. You don't really feel the bumps at all. You know, it's just oodles of torque and no drama, and I think that's the appeal of a car like this, especially at that price point.
Oh yeah, the thing about this is that, like, obviously I bought it for being a petrol head. I did want to own a V12.
Yeah,
that's kind of a thing.
Hence the exhaust coming.
Yeah, hence the exhaust coming. But yeah, I could have got a 730D. Probably paid a lot less money.
Yeah. But then it wouldn't have come with half the stuff that this has. Probably.
No, it doesn't come with the toys.
And all those things.
And the 730D won't do this.
Oh, it does shift for a big barge.
Yeah.
Surprisingly planted in the corners. I was expecting it to have a lot more body roll.
No, it doesn't. That's all the anti-roll systems and everything all kicking in.
Yeah,
and
it's
like,
very impressive.
So if you want to have fun down, like if you were here in the Cupra, you'd have to work quite hard to lose this, and it's unreasonable. This is a 2.1 ton car.
Yeah.
It shouldn't do that, but it does, and that's what makes it so fun. You know,
it's a different kind of fun. It's not your sports car fun, but you know, there's something quite comical about a 2-ton barge rolling between the corners and still having enough power to keep up with the likes of hot hatches and things like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love it because I literally drove it all the way home yesterday, and then I went and took my girlfriend's 96-year-old granddad out. Yeah. And he loved it because it's big, it's comfy, he can get his walking stick in the back, he can get in the door easily. He loved the heated seat because he likes to stay warm. And then when I dropped them all off and I've got a half-hour journey back home through the back lanes, I put it in sport mode and I acted like a complete hooligan. Probably burnt about 30 quid worth of fuel doing it, but I was like,
miles per gallon.
Yeah, exactly, miles per mile. You're like, I had a whale of a time. And it's just, and these are just stupid cars. There's so much money, and they're not going to be long for this world, this kind of car, because we're replacing them all the time with big 4x4s and things like that.
And low power turbo, turbos with low displacement and things like that.
Yeah, the whole, I mean, this market segment is probably going to stay around for a while because the people that like this specific type of car, you know, they really love it. But things like the 5 Series, they are almost an endangered species. Yeah. Don't think we realise it, but they are. Yeah,
everything's going hybrids, electric and that sort of thing. It is a dying breed, but I think in terms of the value it represents is quite good because of the depreciation as well, because it's lost a load of money already, and if you're buying at this point, then it's not going to lose much more, let's be honest.
Just get one that's sorted. That's the main thing, is looking for a decent history like this one. I don't have like the complete history of the car, but you know, I know when it's been serviced at the right time. I've got like 4 years of paperwork from the last owner, and he's just continuously maintained it. He's looked after it. You know, the Mercedes was the same, and I knew when I took the Mercedes on that I was gonna have to spend on it. I didn't realise I was gonna have to spend so soon on it, because the guy was a little bit dishonest about it. But you know, still, I'm not too upset about the bill. If I'd been handed a bill for like $4,000, I'd be crying. Yeah, but as it is, quite as bad. No, 1,100 quid, and I had, you know, when you're starting to do stuff like getting the picnic table lined up, you're like, okay, that's
it must be in good shape then to start doing fiddly things like that.
I would also recommend with any type of car like this that you find a specialist.
Yeah.
You know, something like a C-Class or a 3 Series, yeah, you can take that wherever you want. Doesn't really matter. There's nothing that complex about them. But for the 7 Series, the S-Class, the Audi A8, those kind of things,
you want to know someone who knows the car.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably say, actually, if you want like a big luxury barge that's probably like the least scary in terms of running costs or things to go wrong, probably look at a Lexus.
Right, yeah. Famed for reliability, Lexus.
Famed for reliability. They're excellently put together. Very, very underrated car in the UK. In America, they go absolutely bananas for them. They completely love them.
Yeah.
But yeah, here we just...
I mean, even stuff like the LS400s, you can pick them up for less than £1,000 now.
Yeah, well, I was considering a project car a couple of years ago, and it would have involved using one of the 1UZ V8 engines that were in it. And I was finding engines, and one of the engines was up for sale for 800 quid, and it came with a free car. They basically said, we're selling the engine, but we can't be bothered to take it out of the car, and the car still ran and drove.
Right.
So you can pick up like an old LS400 for like £1,000.
Yeah, it's crazy when you think about it like that.
I mean, and if all you want, if you're not too worried about the technology and stuff like that, if all you want is a comfy, wafty car with a nice big V8,
I mean, when you consider you're paying, a lot of people buy a new car, even a 3 Series, 5 Series, they're paying £400 or £500 a month on finance. I mean, if you spend £1,000 or £2,000 or even up to sort of 10 on a car like this, and then you keep that money aside each month for that bill in case it goes wrong. If you're not too bothered about the age, then you kind of get a bit of better value for money, I would say.
Yeah, a lot better value for money. There's a lot of cars that have just become sort of a bit cheaper because you can no longer drive them in London without being fined for it.
Yeah, and you've got the ULEZ coming up. And
ULEZ. So that was one of the reasons I also got rid of my Saab, because with it being diesel, you know, my sister has just given birth, so I'm basically tasked. When the family want to go somewhere, I'm the person that drives them around, which is the reason, or one of my reasons behind getting a big old soft barge. Because if they want to go to the local, you know, shopping centre, then they can have all this stuff in the bag. They love the fact there's digital TV in here they can watch. You know, there's a DVD changer in the boot.
And it's nice and safe for the kids as well. Being such a big car and all that.
Yeah, and also it doesn't look obnoxious. So when my grandmother goes to get in it, she's not being asked to get in some boy racer's car, which is what the Saab looked and sounded like. Right.
Yeah, in terms of the big manufacturers, I mean, obviously you've got the 7 Series, you've got the S-Class. Lexus is quite a good one as well. Is there any others you'd say is worth a look?
If pure luxury is what you're after, I would probably say that the Mercedes seems to be the class leader, and definitely in value for money terms.
I mean, the S-Class is usually the benchmark for new tech and things like that as well, isn't it? So you often get a lot of gadgets that you wouldn't have at that age in the other cars.
The hardest one to sell is the A8, because it always seemed until recently quite a bit behind both BMW and Mercedes.
I don't think it's very luxurious in terms of the interior on the older models anyway. The new one's lovely, don't get me wrong, but the older ones you get in, it's a bit like an A6. Is it really worth the extra cash and the layout for you know, running the V12 or the V8, whichever you choose to get?
V10.
That
was the big option. And they had the W12. We don't really have, there are other brands that exist in the world that do some luxury cars and things, but we don't really tend to get them. Like even Toyota have different offerings and things that we don't get in this market.
The Crown cars.
And the Century. Again, like Honda used to have the Legend, which I don't know if it even still exists. It probably does, but I don't really see them here. You know, you Infinity as well, but it doesn't really exist as a brand here. I mean, I know they're around, but they're pretty hard to find.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, America has some sort of luxury cars that again they don't sell here because no one would buy them. But yeah, I'd probably start with Lexus or Merc. Lexus if you want to play it safe, Merc if you want to sort of go in for it, and then it depends on your budget and things.
Of course,
For like $5,000 you get a really good car. Like for $10,000 you get something incredible, and for $20,000 some of the cars I've seen out there, if I had $20,000 to spend on them, like you can get an S65.
I mean, what a beast that is.
Unreal. Absolutely unreal.
So really it's worth considering then, if you're the sort of person who you've got a bit of money to pay out on a finance car, it may be worth, rather than doing that, to just consider getting something older that's within budget, but you've got enough that you can maintain it. Especially if you aren't really doing the miles. Because, you know, fuel is the big outlay. You know, I'll never pretend that this is going to be cheaper to run than, like, I mean, I suppose also, like, I say it like that's a problem, but actually, if you were doing the miles, you get 730D. You know, and then I think the 6-cylinder diesels are quite smooth anyway. I mean, nothing like this, obviously, but it's just effortless, isn't it? There's no let off of the torque. That's the beauty of the V12.
But yeah, for the people that aren't fussed about the performance, just get the 730D. You get the economy, or you get the Mercedes S320. There's loads of options out there, and there's loads more of them, and they're cheaper.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of car to stop as well.
It is. I haven't really tested the brakes yet. I'm not going to do that for a little bit. But yeah, there you go. That's barges.
Yeah, that's barges for you. So, again, thanks very much, James, for having me and coming out with me and taking me out in this wonderful car that you've just got. And look forward to some more content in the future. My car's going to be reviewed on James's channel, so I'll leave a link for that in the description when it does eventually appear. And for more content here, please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
It's a bit silly what this thing does.
It doesn't even feel like you're going quick, does it?
No.
That's half the danger.
Yeah, especially when you come up to a corner, you're like, oh, I've got to move 2 and a bit tons around this corner.